All right. Well, welcome and good morning, everybody. My name is Dean, and this is a session on basics of editing in Ploud. So today we're going to be going through some topics that I've been going over with people for the last couple weeks, and it's just things about general comfort and maneuvering around your site and doing the things that you might need to do on a daily basis. I guess if you can't hear me, you can't hear me. There should be a phone icon in the top left that allows you to establish an audio connection. All right, and for everybody, either who can't make it or who can't hear, there will be a recording of this posted on the help desk as usual, along with recordings of all our previous sessions. So if you have any questions during the presentation, you can type those into the chat channel, which I'll have open. So if anything comes up, or if you want me to slow down or go over anything in more detail, you can just let me know there, and I'll answer your concerns as I can get to them. So I guess we'll start with some basics. So I'll be using some test sites that that we have on our internal servers here to demonstrate things. So first things first, logging into your sites. Hopefully most of you have been able to do that, but for anyone who's had trouble with that or is confused, the way that you would log into your site is that if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, you'll see a staff login button on the right, and when you click that, it'll open a new little dialog, and you can type your name and password in there. And your name and password should have been sent to you in an email. And so when you log in, you see a couple of changes. One is that you see this green editing bar that shows up in the middle of the page, and that allows you to do a whole bunch of stuff, adding new content and looking around, editing content, looking at different views of your folders, stuff like that. And you'll also see in the top right corner, and this will be in slightly different places for different visual themes, you'll have this button that displays your username, and it also has an arrow indicating that it's a drop down. And if I click on that, then if I need to log out, then the logout button is at the bottom of that menu. So, and when you're logged out, either because you've just logged out or you hadn't logged in yet, if you remember your username but not your password, you can click on this link so we can send you a new one, and it'll ask you for your username. It is case sensitive, so just be aware of that. And when you type that in and hit start password reset, then the system will send an email to the email account that's configured on your user ID. So, and I should see a notification pop up in just a couple seconds indicating that my password reset email has arrived and that it has a link in it that I can click that will take me to a password reset screen. All right, there we go. And it'll come from your Ploud administrator. Okay. So if I go to the link, then I can put in my username again, and I can change my password. Oh, whoops. You didn't see that. All right, and I can reset my password. And then now that my password is reset, I go down to the staff login button again and type in my name and password. And so I'm logged in, and you can see that my name appears up here in this button. And so now I am logged in, and I can. So sometimes when you log in, you'll come to a page that says you're now logged in instead of going directly to the home page, and you can just click on this link that says continue to your home page, and it'll bring you to your site. Um, so, and if you're logged in already and you want to change your password, you can do that by clicking on this button up here and then going down to Preferences. And then on this personal information form, you can see that you've got two tabs, and the second one is password. So you can go there, and it'll ask you to enter your current one, and then you can change that while you're logged in. And if you are a site administrator, or if you have rights, and you can see I don't have the site setup field here because I guess this web editor user doesn't have the correct permissions, but I'll log in as my admin who has site administrator access, which many of you have on your own sites. If I need to reset a password for another user's account, so I have someone on staff at my library who's forgotten their password and they come to me for help, then I can click on this button, and you can see I've got a few more options here. I'll click on Site Setup, and then I'll go to the Users and Groups. And here I'll see a list of all of the users who are registered on my site. And so if I want to, reset my web editor user, you can see that there's a column here for reset password. So I just go to that column for the row that that user's on, click that box, and then scroll down to Apply Changes. And that'll do the same thing that I did earlier with the password reset, which it will send that user an email with a link to reset their password, same way. So if you're trying to reset one for someone else at your library, then that's how you would do that. So with that, so that's how you log in, log out, reset passwords in various different ways. And you can see I just got that email again. So the next thing would be when you first get into your site, your header section up here, like everything from this navigation bar up. So you've got your site logo and your site title, and in some cases a background image. If you want to change those things because they show up first on your site and they show up on every page, then the way you would change that is when you click on this button up here, you can go down to the Site Configurations option, and that will take you to a page to configure a number of different things about this header section. So you can see the first all of these blanks right here: site title visible, site title font size, showed site title in bold. All of these have to do with this text that shows up in the middle of your header. So you can see that for me, this test site says Harney County Library. It's important that have the name of your library in it because that is going to be used by search results in various search engines. Like, so, when someone's Googling for your library, this site title is going to be, part of what determines whether they actually get your site or not. So that should be filled out. However, it doesn't necessarily have to show up on your pages. So for instance, and I've got a different library's logo up here because I was testing that. You can see that they've got the name of their library in their logo, which a number of libraries do. And so they would probably not want to show this site title here because this logo is going to show up on every page, so we don't need the name to show up in both places. So in this site title visible field, I would say instead of everywhere, so on every side of the page, or on every page of the site, I'll click not visible. And so that means that the site title will never show up while people are browsing around on my site. Now I have some other options for whether it should show up. It can show up on just the main page or just on various internal pages in your site. And if it does show up, you can change what font it's in and how large that font is, whether it's bold. So you have some control over that. And then The other thing that's on this site configurations page is the ability to change your site logo. So when I hit browse, it'll open up an option to choose something from my local computer. So I'll pick an updated version of this logo that I have up here, and I'll hit apply, and it'll upload that, and it will replace my image. And that doesn't look great against a black white background, but we'll change that momentarily. So, and anytime you want to change that logo, you can just again hit browse and choose something to replace it with. So, say I want to change this white background since my logo is like off-white and I want it to show up. So I can click on this this button with my username again, and I can go to my theme changer. And this will allow me to select between the existing visual themes for my site. Right now there's 3 of them. We'll be adding more as time goes on, but we haven't had a chance to develop more of them yet. So this is kind of the basic offering. So you can see I have this Metropolis one active here, and then the Ploud and Slate themes, I can just hit activate if I want to change the theme that's being used right now. And you can see that that's changed a few things about the way my page is showing up. It's not that different, but there's a few things that change when I activate that theme. So you can see like the headers of my portlets are blue now, and I've got a slightly different like configuration of the colors of text and stuff. But I still got this white background in the header. So I want to change that. So I'll go to the Color Palettes tab. And there's several different ones available for each theme. And so when you click on one, it'll show you a preview. So you can see this one is blue or gray or sand colored. And so I like that. I like the contrast of that off-white against this kind of brownish gray. So I'm going to hit apply to that color palette. Okay, so now I've updated the header section of my site. And I've updated theme. That's kind of the way I want to implement. So one other option you have, so I'm using the Ploud theme right now, and it has just this plain colored background. But the Slate theme, which is another option, allows you to choose an image that will show up in the header. So I'll show you how to do that as well. So if I go back to my theme changer, and I choose Slate instead of Ploud or Metropolis, then it will update, and again you can see it's slightly different. I've got a header image loaded already, so it's showing up now. And the same as with the previous one, there's different color palettes available. So you can see it's got Pacifica right now, and when I change it to Ruby, you can see like the accents on the site change from blue to red, and then there's a sunset that turns them to an orange. So I can pick the one I want and hit apply. And so if I want to set what this background image is, I can go to this button that displays my username, and I can go down back to the site configuration page where I set my logo and hid my site title. So now that I've got the Slate theme active, you'll see there's 2 more options here. So set homepage header image and set site-wide header image. So those are both kind of doing the same thing, just in different places. So basically, you have options under the Slate theme. You can set one image that'll show up in the header on your main page. So in this case, like Dean3 Harney County Ploud.net, and then you can set a different image or the same one if you want that will appear on every other page. So what we're seeing here, this image is set as the site-wide header, and if I click to go back to the page, you'll see that it will load a different header image. And when switching back and forth between themes that do and don't have headers, right now you have to force a refresh to make that header show up. So I'm going to hit Shift F5 to, oh, sorry, that's the wrong command in this browser. I'm going to hit Control F5 to force the page to refresh. And we'll load that theme, and you can see that there's a different background image here because I've selected different ones for the home page header and the site-wide header. And I've done that on the site configurations page. And I had done that previously, so they're already there. So when I switched to the Slate theme, it loads those header images that I had already chosen. But if you need, then it works just the same way as setting the logo did. I can just come down here, hit Browse, and then choose the images that I want and say, I want the same thing to show up on every page. So I'm going to choose the same image, apply those, and set them as my background for this. Let's see. I may need to force it to refresh there too. Yeah, you can see that now that river image shows up. I'm enjoying how this. And that force refresh is something that's not always going to be necessary. It's something we're working on put that will address that. But for the moment, you just hit Control F5 after you've made that change and reload your site. Then you should see the change take place. So that's how you change all the display settings for this header section of your site. Which is one of the main things that you'll probably want to do when you're first editing. So with that, we'll move down from the header, and we'll move down actually just to the bottom of the header to this navigation bar right here. Because that's going to be something that shows up on every page of your site. So you want to make sure, you want to be able to modify it and make sure that you understand how stuff is showing up there and how to get stuff onto it and off of it. So these tabs, or these options right here, they each represent one of the main folders on your site. So this site has a bunch of main folders like About Us and Research and News and Events, and so if you go to that, you can see that your URL is just your site/About Us. So it's one of your main folders that's set there. And so any folder that's created in the main section of your site, as long as it's viewable to everybody, so as long as it's published, you'll be able, then it will show up on this main navigation menu. And so I'll demonstrate adding one so you can get an idea of what that means. So because I'm logged in as someone who has rights to add content to my site, I can do that. So I can scroll down to this green edit bar, and so I'm in the home section of my site. So I'll hit Add New, and I'll say Folder. And there's a bunch of different content types. They're all used for different things, and those are described in an article on the help desk that I'll show you in a little bit. So I'm adding this folder, and I'll say additional folder for top navigation. And I'll hit save. So there's a lot of other stuff I like add on it, but just type and create will be the first step. So you'll see you don't see that on this top navigation yet, and that's because when I create that folder, and this is true for most kinds of content that you'll add to your site, it's created in a private state. And what that means is that you have to be logged in as a like a user for your site to be able to see it. So visitors, people who are looking for information about your library and coming to your site, won't be able to see anything that's marked as private. And this red color indicates that things are private, not just here, but in your navigation also. So you can see this Teams link is red. That indicates that it's private. Same with the Espanol and all of these other options in your main navigation. So if I click on this button that says private, it gives me a couple of options, and I hit published, it'll change to say published, and it'll turn blue. And you can see that now that folder is showing up in my top navigation. Now, I've added enough stuff to this navigation section that when I added a new folder, it bumped down to a second line. So it's not, we're not huge fans of having a really crowded navigation area. So one of the things that we do recommend is that if at all possible, you kind of limit the number of different folders you have in the main part of your site, just to limit those navigation options. Or at the very least, limit those length of their titles. I mean, because if the titles of all of these were shorter, and this one were shorter, then maybe it wouldn't bump down to the bottom or the next row there. So say I like having this folder here, but I want to get rid of this new folder for the top menu. So so I had added that previously. Now I want to remove it. So I can click on that and go to the first option on every folder. You can see will just be the name of that folder and then home. So Western History home, Kids home, Research home, new folder for the top menu home. So, and when I click on it, it'll bring me to the main page for that folder. So you can see, and this breadcrumb trail here indicates that I'm currently viewing that folder. So I don't want to remove this folder. I just want to get it off of this top menu. So I have a few options. One of the simplest ones is that I can just change this from published back to private. So I can click on that. I change the date back to saying private, and you can see that it's come off of the top navigation menu. So now we're back down to one line. Another option, if you don't want your folder to be private, you can also exclude it from the navigation instead of marking it private. So I'll publish it again, just to put it back to the way it was. You can see there it is on your top navigation. And then if I go to edit, I'll have another option for taking it off of that menu. And so you can see that there, and it's taking a second to load because this is an internal site. It generally will be a bit faster than this. So you can see that it has a number of tabs along the top here. And one of them is the settings tab. So if I go to that, I have a few options. We're not going to worry about these other ones. But so the first one is exclude from navigation. So it says, if selected, this item will not appear in the navigation tree. So when I check that and I hit save, what's going to happen is it'll drop off of this top navigation menu, and it'll also drop off of the navigation menu to the side here. And this navigation menu is a portlet, a navigation portlet, and we'll go over that a little more later. But so exclude from navigation will exclude this folder from both of those. So your folder is still published, visitors can still see it, but they won't be able to find it in the menus. So you can see that it's hidden here. So, but if I search for it in this top box up here, I'll just search for part of the name. Then you can see that it does this new folder for the top menu, the one that I just hit, or the one that I just excluded from navigation, still shows up. So it's a way of keeping it public, keeping it usable, but maybe directing people subtly away from it by making it harder to find. So you might do that with a folder, for instance, that has images that are used throughout your site. You might, you'd want to keep that published so that people who are not logged into your site can see those images, but you might not want them to navigate directly to the image files. And so you would put those images in a folder that's then excluded from your navigation. And we've actually done that with a folder called Site Assets. It's on here. So if I look for that, you can see it comes up, and you can see that it's set as published, and it's used to store images and files that are used throughout your site. And it's also excluded from our navigation, and I can check by going to edit. And then once these tabs load, I'll go to settings. And you can see that it's got this exclude from navigation checked. And so, and you can see that you don't see, even though we're in the home site assets, so this site assets folder is in the main level of your site. So if not for this exclude from navigation check mark, it would be showing up here. It would be showing up in this navigation menu, but we just don't really want to like make it. We don't want to point it out to people, so we've hidden it. You can still get to it though. As far as configuring the top section of your site, it's important to be able to mess with all that stuff so that you can get your header and your logo and your theme and your navigation menus all kind of looking the way you want them to, because that's a big part of the presentation of your site whenever anyone's looking at it. And just a note, so this top navigation menu shows up this way when you're on a full screen browser. So if I make my browser smaller, then you can see it drops behind this little button, and this is called like an accordion menu. And this is the kind of view that you would see on an iPhone or on a mobile device, because the screen is a lot smaller, like the scrunched up browser window. So you can actually see if I expand this, it'll zoom in, and it's zooming in here because this image is really big, so it's zooming into the full size of it. You can see that as I go to different sizes of my browser window, things will kind of pop around as I hit certain limits. So you can look at what your site would look like at various different screen sizes and resolutions. So at the smallest one, when I click on this button, it'll open a drop-down menu that has all of those top navigation menu options on it. And when I click on that, it expands to give me all the options I would see. So you've got your same menu available. It just looks a little different when your browser is smaller, like you're on a phone or something. All right. So that said, that's all I want to say about the top section of your site for now. And if you do have any questions about any of the stuff that we did or any clarifications or anything, again, you can just type into the chat channel and I'll be able to respond to those. So now I'll move on to editing other parts of your site. So we're on the home page right now, and you can see that we've got a bunch of stuff that this is kind of messy because I've been adding lots of things, testing stuff, demonstrating things. So, but we've got a lot of stuff on our welcome page. You can see that we're on here. We've got different searches, and we've got links that go to different services that we want to offer or link to, and then information about things that are going on at the library and about the library itself. So say I want to edit something about this home page here. The way I would do that is, whenever I'm logged in, I have this green editing bar above my central content area. So if I click on edit while I'm on this page, it'll take me to the editing view for that page. And so from there, I can do lots of stuff. I can change the title of it. I can say, welcome to the Harney County Test Library page. And then this change note is just an internal field. I can say change title. That's something that you can use for looking at your revision history of an item. It's not mandatory or anything. And then I can come down to this text field, and I have a rich text editor that will allow me to do lots of different stuff. So all this content, I can add more stuff like this through it. I can add and edit pictures. I can add and edit hyperlinks. And even there's some, there's some forms in here. Those have actually been added through pasting in some HTML code, which is a little bit more advanced. If you are doing that, if you have like a pre-built widget, which I know for example, for the Michigan libraries, there's some shared e-library resources that we have provided some widget code for, and to add those in, or any code that you want to add in, you can click on Tools and go to Source Code, and it'll open up a pop-up box. And this is kind of the HTML behind-the-scenes view of what it is that's creating all of this stuff that you're looking at in the actual text editor. So if you do have stuff that you want to put in there, that's how you would do it. Hopefully the text editing functions in general should be fairly straightforward. You should be familiar with those, just clicking in and typing anywhere. And then if you want to change the formatting of some text, then you can always just highlight it and do so, or the alignment as it may be, or even the text color. And then you can also add, again, you can add links and images, and the way you would do that is, and you can see, so these blue, this blue text, they're all hyperlinks. That should be familiar because that's kind of a standard thing across the web. If I click on this, you can see that this Insert Edit Link button is like showing up as depressed, as clicked. So, and if I click away from it, it goes away, and if I click back onto it, it changes. So this indicates that there's a link behind this text. So if I click on the Insert Edit Link button, I get a dialog, and it has a bunch of options along the top. And I don't see anything on this internal tab, but if I go to the external tab, I can see, okay, this link is pointing to a page outside of my Ploud site. Cool. That's where that goes. I don't want to mess with that, so I'll leave it alone. If I want to remove it, I can just, if I click on the hyperlink, I can use this Remove Link button to just empty it out. So say I want to add a new link, I can highlight the text that I want to add that link behind, or add the link to, and then I click on my Insert Edit Link button. I get that dialog, and I have several options. So say I want to link to a page that's on my site, then I can use this internal tab, and if I click in here to this box, then it'll open up a drop-down of folders that are available, and it will do autocomplete as you're typing. So I want to use my kids folder, or I want to link to my kids folder. So I look for that, and then I click on the name, and it selects that. This target field, right now it says open in this window or frame. What that means is that when I click on that, it's going to take me to that page in the same browser window that I'm currently in. So I can also tell it to open in a new window. And what that'll do is when I click on this link, it'll open a new tab in my browser that will take me to that link. So it won't make me leave the page that I'm on to go to that link. And same way, like if I want to change that, I can remove that link. You can see that the formatting has changed again. And I will select this again, click Insert Edit Link, and then I want to add an external link this time. I want it to go to a Google search. I'll just put that in. I'll say new window. I'll insert. One of the things to note is that when you're adding an external link, it always has to start with this http:// or HTTPS. If it doesn't, then your site's going to think that you're trying to write a manual link to somewhere else on your site, and your link's not going to work. So if you just put in www.google.com as this link, then what you're gonna click on it, and you're gonna get a page not found error. So make sure you put that HTTP on there. And so, yeah, adding links fairly straightforward. You've got a couple of other options. You can add an email link, and that'll actually add it'll add a link to that text. So that will, when you click on it, will attempt to open whatever email browser you have, or sorry, email program you have. So in my case, like if I click on that, it'll open a new email in Outlook to Ploud at Infold Systems with the title "I need help." So that's also something you can do if you're trying to like make a contact us link or something like that. So you can see also that there's a lot of images that are posted on this page. So if I click on one of those, you can see all these buttons to press. So that indicates that not only is there an image here, but this image contains a link. So if I click on that image, it will take me somewhere. So that's, not only can you add links to text, you can add them to images as well. So say I want to change something about this image. Then when I click on it, I can go to Insert Edit Image. I'll get a dialog that looks a lot like my Insert Edit Link dialog. And you can see that this is an image that exists on my site. I'm using it from somewhere on my site, and it'll tell me where. It's in my News and Events folder, and it's called Rocket Languages Logo.jpg. Say I want to make it smaller. This size field right here says, okay, right now I'm using the original size, but I have a bunch of other options. And these are all listed in pixels. And if and that's a maximum size, so it won't stretch it to a larger size, but it will constrain it down to that maximum size. So I'll say I want this to be a 64 by 64 image. If I click on that, you can see, okay, well yeah, see, so it turned a lot smaller than it was. So, okay, I can't read that anymore. I want to change it back. I'll set it back to original. Oh, interesting. So it wasn't actually original size. That's very, very odd. Let me set it to mini. I see. There we go. So that's the size that I wanted at. So you can modify the size of your images that way with those preset sizes. One of the other things you can do is when you select an image, you can see that it's got these little white boxes here, and you can use those as sliders to shrink or expand your image. And the little counter that appears is the pixel size. And if you do stretch it, then you're going to lose some resolution. So if I stretch this really big, you can see it gets all blurry. And the problem with doing that is that then if I go back to my image dialog and say, okay, well, I want it to be a maximum size of this big, well, it fixed the resolution a little bit, but it didn't actually change the size of my image because I had stretched it to a custom size, so now it wants to stay that way. So if I want to fix that, I actually have to select it and delete that image and then insert a new one. And I'll look for the name, click on that, and I'll select mini, and I'll insert it. All right, and so now that's back on there. So that's how you would add. That's how you would add or modify images that are already uploaded onto your site. So say I want to add an image that I have on my computer. I would select the place in the text where I want to add it, go back to the same Insert Image dialog, only this time I'll go to the Upload tab, and I'll go to Browse to open a dialog on my computer. I'll select the image that I want to upload, and I can put a specific image that I want to put it. So I mentioned the Site Assets folder as a place where we store images, so I'm going to put it there. And if I click on this arrow, it'll actually allow me to navigate in there to say, okay, do I want to put it in one of the subfolders here? So I'm going to select the Images subfolder. So you can see that it says Home, Site Assets, Images. That's where I want to upload it, so I'll hit this button. And then it doesn't give you any success indication, but it does just go away. So I'm going to assume that it worked. I'm going to go back to the Image tab, and I'm going to type part of the name. And you can see, okay, there's my image. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to say I want it to be roughly the same size as all of my other images on this page, and I'll hit Insert. And voila, there's my image. And so one more, if I want to add an image that's on a different website without uploading it to mine, then I can use this External Image tab. And for this one, I'll need to go find an image. So I'll look something up. I'll go to images. I like this hairy cow. I don't know what's up with that. And I'll say view image so I can get the URL for it. So I'll copy that, and then I'll go back to this dialog. I'll paste that in, and I'll give it a name, and I'll hit insert. And you can see that now I've got my hairy cow on my page. Now you'll notice this is really big, and on this external image tab, there's no size field, so I can't resize this image because it's not stored on my site. But what I can do is I can click and drag the same way I did before, so I can actually make this a smaller image, and see, I'll get it down to close to 200. So now I've got my smaller hairy cow there. So those are the different ways that you can add images and links to your page. And there's, in the same way, you can also you can even embed YouTube videos or any video that's online. You can do that as well. There's not an insert video button right here for it, but if you go to the insert tab, or the menu right here, then you'll see there's an insert or edit video button here. So when I click that, I can see. I can look up a video that I want to use, and I can go to it. And when you go to it, especially on a place like YouTube, they're used to people wanting to share stuff and embed them on their sites. So there's a little share link down here, maybe in different places on different sites. But and I can go to embed and then select the code that it gives me here, and I can paste that into my window. And so now I've got this video placeholder here, and if I hit save, then I can scroll down onto my page, and you can see all the changes that I've made. So my title is changed. I've got some orange text here. I've got a link that when I click it, opens up an email. And then I've got all my images, and I've got my video here. So all kinds of different stuff that you can do on your page, all pretty easy and straightforward from the rich text editor on the edit view for your page. And so you can always just go to edit to do that. And so in the same way, so I've been editing an existing page and throwing a whole bunch of nonsense content on it. But if I want to create a new one, then the same way that I created my new folder previously, I can go to add new, and I can scroll down to page. And you might not see all of these different options all the time. Some of your folders will have restricted rights, and some users will not be able to add everything to every folder. So like in your library calendar, you may only be able to add events, as opposed to like pages, because it might not make sense to add everything everywhere. So I'll click page, and it'll bring back to an editing page that will look pretty much the same as the one that we were just on. The only difference is that instead of saying edit page at the top, it says add page. And so you do all the same stuff that we were doing. So I'll put a title in it, and then I'll put, this is some body text, and I'll throw an image in there. Well, I haven't uploaded it yet, so I'll upload an image. I'll put that in my site assets folder. and then I'll go and look for it. There it is. I want it to be resized to be smaller. And I'll hit insert, and so now I've got that. And I'll put in a link to our About Us folder, and I'll hit save. And so that'll create my new page, and you can see if I click on the folder that I'm looking to, and I'll go back to that page. You'll notice that it's private, and so I'll say, well, this is what it looks like for some reason. So let me click on this private button. No, didn't let the page load all the way, so now it's taking me somewhere. And if that ever happens, if you click a button that's supposed to give you a drop-down menu, and instead of giving you the drop-down menu, it takes you to a page with all those options on it, that just means that the page hadn't fully loaded yet before you clicked on it. So just give it a second the next time. So I'll hit publish. And now my page is live. And so there's a bunch of different types of content. We're kind of the same. There's some various like specific things that you'll have to do for different kinds of content, but it'll, you know, if you've gotten used to doing some of them, then it should be fairly straightforward. And so I'll show you real quick about adding events, since that's something that a lot of people will be doing. So I'll click on my library calendar, because ideally we'll be adding, you know, just to keep things organized on your site, be adding events in your calendar folder, adding news items in your news folder, images in your images folder, you know, just to keep things organized. We don't enforce anything about that, so you're welcome to do whatever makes sense for you, but that's a suggestion. So on my calendar, you can see that there's colored dots on each day that has an event. You can see these different ones, and you can click on any of these to go to the details for that event. The different colors of dots will mean different things. So a blue one just means it's an event that's happening once. A yellow one means it's happening on a recurring basis. And so you can see that this one is happening, it looks like every Tuesday. And so a couple more specific ones. But so say I want to add a new event. I can go up to my Add New button, and I'll click Event to an editing page that will allow me to add all the details for that event. So say I'm having my monthly poetry slam. And I want it to happen on Friday night. And it'll be a couple hours long. And then it'll be you can add your information here. And then like I said, it's going to be a monthly one. So in this recurrence field, I'll hit add, and then under repeats, I'll choose monthly, and I'll say repeat on the 4th Friday of every month, and we want to do this for the next year. So you can see these selected dates update, and that'll tell me all the days that it's going to be happening on. So, and say I notice, okay, Friday, December 25th, that's Christmas. We're not going to be open that day. So let me exclude that specific one by clicking this trash can button, and then I'll hit save. It'll give me that list here, and I'll say add some whatever details, and you can add text and link and image all here. You can't put in different descriptions for different occurrences of a recurring event. So your description is going to have to be general for the whole thing. But you can see these are the details for the event. It'll tell you when it's happening, all the different occurrences of it. And again, when you create it, create it as private. It won't show up on your calendar until you publish it. Well, in your calendar portlets are on sides of the various pages. So that's how you would create an event. That's how you set up your event to repeat at regular intervals. And so, and I mentioned that it'll show up in your calendar portlets. So you can see here. Here's my calendar portlet, and some of these days are black, indicating that there's nothing there. Some of them are blue. If I hover over them, you can see that it'll tell me some stuff about my events. And you can see here that it's saying 1700 instead of 5 p.m. That's something that we've noted, and we're working on changing so that it will display in 12-hour time instead of 24-hour time. So we are aware of that. We're working on fixing it. So speaking of portlets, and I won't get into specific things that you can do to modify those, but I just want to show you if you want to change the things that are showing up on the left and right side of your page, you can do that by scrolling down to the bottom of the center content, and you'll see this long button that says Manage Portlets. So if I click on that, it'll take me to a screen called the Portlet Management screen for the page that I'm on. And you can see each of these gray boxes corresponds to one of the portlets that was visible on that page. And so I have a bunch of options. I can move them around relative to each other. I can hide them. I can delete them using this X, or I can click on their title, go to the editing page for what I change for this particular location. So when I click on that, it'll bring me to the editing field. This is taking a second to load, and I'll have a text editor just like I would on any page, and so I can make my changes here and then hit save to save those changes. Again, so there's a bunch of different stuff you can do from this page. You can add portlets, like new navigation portlets or new text portlets if you want to just have some information set on that part of your page. You can add a calendar or a listing of upcoming events, all sorts of stuff. So you can play around with that. There's guides on the help desk to kind of help you understand how to do various things on this page. And so, like I said, there's a lot of stuff you can do here. I won't go through it all now. A few minutes left, I'll show you on the help desk where you would go to find out about that. So if you're logged into the help desk, you'll see a couple of different tabs along the top. And so the first place you would go if you want information is the solutions area. And so that'll take you to our knowledge base. And in the knowledge base, you'll have a whole bunch of articles that we've written, FAQs, general documentation, stuff about how to use your text editor, recordings of sessions like this one, and there's an entire section about portlets in here. So if I click on that, then there's a whole bunch of different articles about portlets. So there's ones about adding news portlets, adding collection portlets, deleting them, and then there's one that you can start with that will actually just give you a little bit of information about each of the different kinds that's available, so you can understand more about what to do with each of those. And you can actually go to those articles from there and say, okay, I want to add a collection portlet. How do I do that? What do I do with each of the options that I'm given while I'm trying to do that? So the knowledge base gives you a bunch of resources to understand things that you can do or how to do those things around your site. Um, if there's anything that's unclear or if there's anything that's not covered there, you can always let us know, and we're happy to add or clarify information that's up here, because the goal here is for you to be able to find that information without having to rely on us to come in and explain it, just because that's, sometimes it'll be a little while before we have availability to come and chat with you. So this gives you a resource to be able to find that information yourself if necessary. But if you do need to talk to us, we have both the forums area and the support ticket area. So in the forums, we have a lot of people have asked questions about how to do things, or whether they can do things, or things that they'd like to be able to do. And there's also an announcements forum where each time we release an update to your site, we'll make notes about what's changed as of that update. And I'll always send out an email linking to these posts before that update gets done. There was one that was done last night that changed a few small things. And so that post, you can see we changed a little bit about login prompts and the theme changer. So that's just some information in case anybody, in case you want to see what we're changing, what we're working on. You can go to the forums and talk to us there. And if you have a problem or a question that needs an answer directly, or you need help with doing something, then you can always go and log a new support ticket. And you can just use this new support ticket button right here. And when you click on that, it'll bring you to a page that will allow you to specify some information about what's going wrong. So it'll save your email so it knows who you are. You give it a short descriptive title, and then I'll say, okay, my problem is happening on this page. I have a question. It's urgent because I need to edit my site, but I can't get into it. So, and in your description, you'd put in whatever information you have as much as possible. You can also attach files if you have screenshots. As much information as you can give us is very helpful. But if you don't know what to put in, then you can just put in what you do know, and we'll get back to you asking for questions for clarification to kind of help guide you. So anytime you want to make a request, we'll be here to pick that up. So with that, so that's some exposure to how to edit the main parts of your site, how to create a couple different kinds of content, and how to look for and request help from us. So hopefully that's enough to get you started. There's lots of other stuff to know, and we'll be conducting additional webinars in the future, and there's articles on the help desk that can help you understand this stuff. So thank you all for coming out and listening, and I hope you all have a good weekend and happy editing.